Okay, welcome fifth graders to another video science test review. Today we are going to be talking about the circulatory system. So hopefully you have your picture notes in front of you and you are ready to follow along. I think the best place to start is to just basically figure out how the blood moves through the circulatory system, talk a little bit about how that relates to what we talked about in our last lesson on the respiratory system, and then go from there and touch on anything that we need to talk about. So let's go ahead and jump right in. Basically, and you can follow along right over here if you need kind of a word description of what we're talking about. Actually, I can use that. So from number 1, we have oxygen poor blood coming from the right side. If you look at it here, this is basically like you're facing somebody. So this is going to be the right side of a person, just like it would if you were facing me. So oxygen poor blood, that's the blue stuff. Oxygen poor blood or carbon dioxide rich blood. If it's carbon dioxide rich blood, that means it's oxygen poor blood because there's no oxygen in it. So you have oxygen poor blood or carbon dioxide rich blood coming in to the right atrium from the superior vena cava and the inferior vena cava. Both go into the right atrium. And we talked a little bit about this in class, how in superior means top. If somebody's superior to you, they are on top. And if somebody is inferior to you, they are below. Okay, so oxygen poor blood comes into the right atrium. Then it flows into the right ventricle. And then it is pumped out by the pulmonary artery to the lungs. Okay, step number 2, it flows into the lungs. Once again, the blood came from the inferior vena cava and the superior vena cava into the right atrium. Then it went into the right ventricle, and then it got pumped out by the pulmonary artery to the lungs. The upper chamber of the heart is the atrium. The lower chamber of the heart is the ventricles. Okay, so keep that in mind. Step number 3, it picks up in the lungs, the oxygen poor blood or the carbon dioxide rich blood gets dropped off. And we talked a little bit about that in the respiratory system. This carbon dioxide rich blood goes through the walls of the capillaries into the alveoli and gets breathed out. How oxygen gets picked up right here is that we are breathing in, it goes through the walls of the alveoli, through the walls of the capillary, and so now the blood is full of oxygen because we breathed it in. Okay, so the carbon dioxide gets dropped off and released right here. That's when we breathe out, and the reason it turns red now is because we have breathed in. Okay, so continuing on here. Now in step number 4, from oxygen-rich blood now, because we breathed in, oxygen-rich blood flows into the left atrium and then into the left ventricle, where it is pumped out to the rest of the body by the aorta. Okay, and then the aorta takes it to the upper part of the body, and the aorta takes it to the lower part of the body. The respiratory system is made up of the heart, blood vessels, and that's pretty much it. We have the various different kinds of blood vessels, right? We have the veins, the arteries, and the capillaries. Now, the arteries take blood away from the heart. And here's was kind of our trick here. Arteries, away. Okay? Arteries take the blood away, and veins take the blood back to the heart. Okay? So the aorta is an artery because it takes blood away from the heart. The superior vena cava and the inferior vena cava are veins because they are taking blood back to the heart. So that's another thing that you need to keep in mind. What else here? Oh, also different parts of the red blood cells. You have, in red blood, you have white cells and you have what are called platelets. Okay? The white cells in our blood, they help fight germs. Like when we get a cut, okay, the white cells go and but they go to the cut and they keep it from getting infected. The platelets is another part of the red blood, and the platelets are a part of the blood formed from small cell fragments, okay? And these are formed to stop bleeding. So the platelets go to a cut also, and that helps it stop bleeding. I'm not sure too much other to go with this. The capillaries are in the lungs. You know that from the respiratory system. They are super thin and tiny so that the carbon dioxide and the oxygen are able to go through those walls during gas exchange and diffusion, which happens in the alveoli, which is in the lungs, and it happens right here in step number 3. We have the pulmonary artery. Okay. Once again, this is an artery because it goes away from the heart. Artery. Away. I think that is about it. We talked about the different chambers of the heart. We got the upper chamber, which is the atrium, and the lower chamber, which is the ventricle. And that is the circulatory system. It transports the blood and the food and the oxygen to the rest of the body's cells so that both oxygen and food can leave the red blood and go into the body cells where the mitochondria converts the oxygen from the respiratory system and the food from the digestive system into energy. We talked a little bit about that in class, how all the systems relate. The oxygen is brought into the red blood cells by the respiratory system. The food is brought into the red blood cells by the digestive system. The circulatory system then takes the food and the oxygen to the body cells, where the oxygen and the food then go into the mitochondria, and the mitochondria converts those two things into energy. What gets released is carbon dioxide, which is a waste, which then the circulatory system takes back to the lungs and the alveoli. We are able to release it, and then the whole system starts all over again when we inhale. So just a quick review of how each 3 systems kind of work with one another. If you have any questions, contact me on Edmodo or Facebook. Ask me a question in class. Other than that, I look forward to seeing you guys in school.